Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. If it's your first time joining, thank you. If you are a previous subscriber or you are coming from a previous video on my channel, welcome back. In today's video, I will be continuing on with the twin needle, and we are going to go through on how to set your machine up correctly to use the twin needle. And in the manual for the Brother SE625 machine, it says that the only needle size you can use is a 211 needle, and it tells you right in the manual that you can see right here where it says caution that only use the twin needle 2-11 needle and the part number. Never use the needle threader while using a twin needle, otherwise the needle may break or machine may be damaged. Now, in the previous video I did talk about how you can determine what size needle your machine can use, and if you haven't seen that video, please refer to that. And there is another little tip that says it does, since it does say only to use that particular size needle for the Brother SE625, I would recommend that you follow what the manual says. Don't go by what my previous video says, because I do not want you to risk damaging your machine. Always follow along with what your manual says to risk that chance of damaging it. Sorry, I'm reaching off to the side here to get a Kleenex real quick. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and continue on, and I am going to show you how you correctly set up the machine to use a twin needle. I have taken the single needle off of the machine, and what you want to do is you're going to first hit your lock button. So now your machine's all locked and you can't push anything, and it's not going to be able to do anything. So we're going to take your twin needle, and it's really hard to determine what size the needle is, because on the shank of the needle, usually it will tell you the size, but these twin needles do not do that. I looked under my magnifying light all over this needle, and I could not find anywhere that it said the size. On regular needles, you'll know that on the shank part, it will tell you the size of the needle. So I would really recommend that you put your twin needles back in the package that they come from, if you're able to use that needle still. That way you will always know what size your needle is. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and take the foot off of here just to give us a little bit more room. And I've got my screwdriver here, so my screw should be loosened up already since I took the other needle off. And we're just going to make sure that your flat portion of the needle, you can see your flat portion, goes in just like you do with any other needle. And make sure it's all the way up there. And it's really easy with a twin needle because you have that plastic piece. So I'm going to just finger tighten as much as possible, and then okay. So then we're going to put our foot back on. Actually, not yet. I'm going to show you how to go ahead and thread it first. And you're going to take your first thread, and usually my first thread is my main sewing thread. So I have that back here in the back of the machine, And you're going to thread that like you normally would. So go ahead and thread your first thread. And I'm just using a regular cotton thread today. And I did try to film this video yesterday, but we had thunderstorms yesterday, and I had a power surge, and it erased half of my video. It just shut the camera down completely. And when I tried to go and review the video, half of the video was missing on the SD card. So we're filming again. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and continue. When you thread your first thread, you're going to go ahead and put it through the needle guide or the thread guide bar that's right here on your machine where you normally would put your thread through. So go ahead and put your thread through there, and you're going to go ahead and thread the left side of the needle. So hopefully we can get this in here with no problems today. Also, like I mentioned in the little caution for the Brother SE625, it says only use the 2-11 needle, that you do not ever want to use your needle threader with the twin needle, because you will risk damaging it. Damaging the machine and your needle threader. And hopefully I can get this thread in there, because I am way back here. I'm putting my finger behind the needle so I can see the hole. And I think I'm gonna have to use my trusty needle threader. Okay, give me just a moment. I'm going to grab a needle threader and I will be right back. Okay, so there are many different types of little needle threaders that you can use to thread your needle. These are the traditional type of needle threaders. A lot of people are really familiar with these. They do make the plastic ones that are a little bit, some people like these because they're easier to see. Or you may find these little types of needle threaders. Hopefully you can kind of see that little hook on the end of it. And this one is actually pretty good for, in this case. The only place I have ever been able to find this style is either on Amazon or on the website Temu. I bought mine a 10-pack on Temu for under $2. It might even been 88 cents. It was really low price, so I went ahead and purchased them. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and stick that in the eye of the needle. Put my thread on there and pull it through. Wait. How do I want to do that? I don't think this is going to work for this because I have to go in from behind to thread that. So I think what I need to do is I actually need this type of needle threader, because this one would be bringing the thread from the back of the needle. We don't want it to go from the back of the needle. We need it to go from the front of the needle. So I am going to stick my little wire in there if I can. You know what? Let's go ahead and take this off. I'm just having a hard time threading today because of my allergies are really getting to me. Okay, so I went ahead and took the portion off where you clip your foots to. In this case, I can, nope, I still can't get that in there. So It really shouldn't be this hard to thread, but my allergies are just really bothering me, and I cannot see today. Okay. Okay, so my needle threaders aren't going to work for me today. I just can't see. So we're just going to try to go ahead and do the old lick the thread and stick it through there. I know a lot of other sewers have the same problem, so sometimes you just can't get that thread in there, and you got to play with it a little bit to get it in there. Well, golly, I got it. Okay, there we go. Okay, so I'm sorry that took so long and I fumbled with the needle threaders, but that is a good tip that sometimes needle threaders just aren't going to work. So I learned now. Okay, so we threaded that first thread normally through the machine, put it through the thread behind the needle bar, and threaded it to the left needle, through the left needle. Now you're going to take your second thread, and your machine will come with a spool pin, like so, and there's a little hole up here at the top of the machine where you're going to stick that spool pin in there. And if you're going to be sewing a small seam, you can get away with putting a bobbin. So that's what we're going to do today. And you're going to thread the machine the same exact way as you did your first thread. But the only difference that you're going to do now is you are not going to put the thread through the thread guide bar. I'm going to clip this so I don't have a frayed end, and we're going to now thread this one through the right side. And it's just going to kind of go through your guide here, but I'm kind of moving it a little, and hopefully this one will go in easier. You know what's funny is sometimes when I'm filming and I'm a little more put on the spot, it's a little bit harder to get something done. Okay, there we go. So we have the white thread in the left needle and the purple thread in the right needle. I'm going to attach my foot back on to the machine. And make sure that's on there. And tighten that down. Okay. And we're just going to put it through the foot. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and unlock it. And our next step is we are going to, I just unlocked, oops, unlocked. Okay, and then what you're going to do is, this is a very, very important step, okay? You're going to hit this button right here that looks like the little page. You're going to hit that. And on page 1, you're going to see twin needle. You want to turn it on and hit OK. Then what you're going to do is you're going to select a stitch. And for the stitch selection, you're going to refer to your basic sewing on page 25, or you can refer to the stitch chart on page 35, and let me show you that. So you will see your various stitches, and usually in some manuals it will tell you with your stitch, it will have a column that it'll tell you whether your twin needle is able to be used. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and flip through, and I already know that none of these stitches, other than the straight stitch, can do a twin needle. So I am going to keep flipping through, and then I get to page 38, and it tells me decorative stitches, and it says you're going to use a monogramming foot, but it does say the twin needle can be used, the twin needle can only be used with the satin stitch, and in addition, be sure to attach the zigzag foot, which is your J foot, when using the twin needle. Okay, so we are going to go to our satin stitches, and so we know that's number 7 according to the manual, so we'll see right here. So we're going to hit 7, and okay, look. Okay, so it says only with the satin stitch can you, and it does specifically show. Can you see the 7 right there? That is the only ones that you can use, okay? So we're going to go ahead and let's go ahead and hit that one. I chose 7-04 that we'll be using, and I dropped something. Let me pick that up. Okay, so now what we want to do is I'm going to flip back to the directions in the manual, and it says that once you have your stitch selected, you can start sewing. So in yesterday's video, when I was filming it for you, these are the stitches that I did, and I was just using a white thread, and it was a little hard to see. So I did this little like arced stitch, and today we're going to go ahead and do like the kind of like chevron looking one, and I'm going to go ahead and put the fabric into the machine. And there was something that I learned yesterday, so let's go ahead and start stitching. I'm going to hold my thread tails, and I just have it set to medium speed, and we're going to let it go ahead, and you don't want to force the fabric through. You're just going to gently hold it so it doesn't kind of move around a whole lot, and you don't want to force it or tug on it. So it's just going to go ahead and let it do its thing. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and stop it there. Now, one thing I learned yesterday while I was playing around with it is you do not want to use your thread cutter when you're using your twin needle, because what happened while I was doing it, I used my thread cutter and the thread came out of the second needle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just take it out and pull the thread, and I'm going to use the thread cutter on the side of the machine. So it leaves me a nice tail of thread. If I use the thread cutter, it would just leave me like a ½ inch or an inch of thread, and the thread came out of the needle. Okay, so that is what that looks like. You can see our first thread and our second thread, and that actually looks pretty good. You can play with your width. You can play with the width, you can play with the length of it. Whatever you want to do, play with your thread and see what you like best, because this thread, this stitch can give you different variations of style. I hope that makes sense. Okay, so now what we're going to do is, if you want to go now and change a different stitch, if you're going to be sewing garments, you're going to be using a lot of straight stitching like this. So now what you want to do is, we're going to go back and go back. Okay, so we're all the way back. So now what I wanted to do is, I wanted to go to my straight stitch. So it's telling me to okay to cancel the current pattern. So yes. Okay, so I have my straight stitch selected, and I'm going to go ahead and start sewing. Hold my thread tail. Okay, so that is the end of that, and again, use the side thread cutter. And there is your 2 lines of stitching. And I should have used a different color. I'm really sorry about that purple. It's a little bit hard to see. I forgot I was using black fabric. So you can change your length of your stitch. You can change your width of your stitch. And there we go. That is how you use a twin needle on the Brother SE625 machine. I do not do a lot of garment sewing, so I'm not going to take these videos any further than this. I would highly recommend that if you do garment sewing, to check YouTube for videos on how to properly use a twin needle for garment sewing. I don't sew garments, so it's just not useful for me to even go further. If you have any questions, please comment down below, or you can always email me at jsandc18@gmail.com. I will have that email down in the description below, and I hope to see you all again soon. And we're going to be starting some new projects, and please check those in the future videos, and we'll see you all soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.